Hello.
What did I say about doing British accents? We've been over this.
That was my Captain Brit accent.
Nope, that makes it even worse. Hello and welcome to another edition of Popcorn Bucket List. The King is dead, long live the King. That's right, Avatar was finally dethroned at the box office this past weekend. And who else but the WWE superstar turned actor Dave Bautista. It only took like a month and a half, almost 2 months.
It was a while.
It had a good run there. Look, I'll be the first to admit it. I didn't think it was going to do as good as it did. Box office-wise, it exceeded my wildest expectations. But our opening spotlight this week with The Flash coming in to season number 9, the final season of this show, we thought we would take a look at some of the best superhero TV shows of all time. We're doing things a little bit different here. Usually we focus on movies. We thought we'd shake things up a little bit.
Just change it up a little bit.
But yeah, 9 seasons.
That's a lot.
A lot of people would argue it should have ended after 3 or 2 or maybe 1. I don't know. Season 1 and 2 were great in my opinion. And then season 3 of this show, it's kind of like someone getting diagnosed with cancer, and it's just a slow death.
Yes.
To season
Not
9.
the fast cancer, the slow cancer.
Which is ironic because he's the fastest man alive.
Yep.
But yeah, that's a morbid sort of comparison. But those who have watched the show, you know who you are. We appreciate your service for sticking around. To my friend out there who I know watches the show, even though I quit and kept updating me on stuff like that, I thank you for your service so that I didn't have to. But let's talk about some TV shows that involve superheroes that are good ones that we think people should check out. Fun fact, one of the first superhero TV series that was live action was The Adventures of Superman back in 1952.
Oh.
Quite a while ago. Yep. But that's the perfect segue into one of my first recommendations, Superman and Lois. I believe this is going on to its 3rd season now. Superman's one of the most iconic characters of all time, let's be honest. But I feel like in most stories, Lois takes not necessarily a back seat, but is kind of in the passenger seat, not doing anything.
She's just along for the ride.
Yeah. But the best interpretations of this character is when Lois does kind of step up and do her own thing. But I don't think any has done it as well as this show. First of all, I think the actress who plays Lois in this is the best live-action Lois. No offense to the ones in the movies. I just haven't really liked a lot of them. Even Amy Adams, I wasn't a huge fan of. Not to her, no fault of hers. I just didn't like the story.
Yeah.
But not only that, this Lois is smart like Lois is, a go-getter like Lois is, and she's not afraid to get her hands dirty. And one of the first times they introduced her in this CW universe, she's holding the gun. She's in the middle of the battle too, fighting alongside Superman. This is my Lois. This is the one I want to get behind here. So that's one of the reasons why I love this show so much. And I mean, there's a lot of options for Superman. Like I said, been going on for just a little over 70 years now in live action television, starting in the 50s. So I think she's a pretty good representation of it.
Very good.
But we're going to go back a little bit here. You can't talk about live-action DC shows without talking about the 1960s Batman.
I know. It's epitome old superhero show. Pow, kabam.
Yeah.
Woo, woo.
And it looks so weird nowadays.
It does.
But, and this is what I find so fascinating about comics and for how long they've been around. At the time, that was Batman.
Yeah.
The 60s were weird, people. The 60s were just weird. That was the perfect epitome of Batman and a perfect sort of encapsulation of him in live action form. And you look at how he started in the 40s, and then you look at what kind of was being represented in the 60s, and then you look at the 80s with Tim Burton and Frank Miller comics and all that. And then the 90s got a little bit of both. But then we've kind of landed on this Batman now. But at that time, that was the correct Batman.
Yep. And you're right. It is weird to see how it changes. And sometimes change for the good or change for the bad. But just seeing the change and what it used to be, it's weird.
Let's talk about some other shows here. Obviously, with The Flash, we're talking a lot about the CW and the Arrowverse. The Flash kind of being the unofficial ending to this universe, probably. Let's talk about the beginning of it, Arrow. Again, this one had 8 seasons. Not all of them are great, but to use the cancer analogy again, because for some reason I'm just in a dark place today, it's kind of like that show started off really strong, again, first 2 seasons, got diagnosed here and there, gotten into remission, got diagnosed again, and then ended in remission, which is ironic because his character, spoiler alert, does die at the end. But my point is, there's a lot to love about this show, I think. The writers knew what they were doing with those first 2 seasons. If you see nothing else of the show, watch the first 2 seasons. If nothing else, those 2 is a great binge-worthy time because they really planned out that whole 2-season arc to a T, in my opinion.
Okay.
But I want to end things with one of my actual favorite shows of the CW universe, Legends of Tomorrow. I think I've talked about this show on this show before. The reason why this is one of my favorites is because it should not work, but it does. There's no rhyme or reason why this should work. If you came up to me and you pitched me this idea. Let's say you're trying to. I'm an executive of Warner Brothers.
Okay.
Man, that'd be nice. I got some ideas for that.
Or I'm the executive. You pitch me the show.
I'm gonna pitch you this show.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pitch you this show. Here. All right. So we got a bunch
Hold on,
of.
I gotta get my executive.
Yep. Get your.
stance.
There we go. Okay. Cool. All right. I'm gonna pitch you this show. Here we got a knockoff Black Canary. Not exactly Black Canary, but a knockoff Black Canary. We're gonna also jam in Firestorm, 2 characters that usually don't work together.
Okay.
Also, Ray Palmer's the Atom. Definitely, he's usually doing his own thing. Oh, and 2 Flash villains, not Flash characters, Flash villains. They're gonna work together with these guys
just
as well.
the villains, though.
Yeah,
right?
just these 2 villains. These 2 Flash villains, and they're gonna work with Rip Hunter, the time travel guy, who's usually a loner, and it's and they're also. See, he doesn't even like the idea. It's terrible. He's trying to cough right now. He's trying to cough it off. And not only are these ragtag, not even top tier heroes gonna team up, they're gonna face one of the most dangerous villains of the DC world, Vandal Savage, and it's gonna be a good show. I promise you, it's gonna be a good show. Do you greenlight that?
Well, this is what we'll do. We'll get your information from you, and don't call us. We'll call you.
Okay.
Yep.
That sounds promising.
We'll have to talk it over, but thanks for stopping
This show
Thanks
went on for like 5 seasons, and it's great in my opinion. Granted, again, I'm a sucker for time travel, but part of the reason why it worked is because they kind of kept switching out characters, but it was always people that you would never expect to work with this group. Like Constantine. He's a magical user who's one of the biggest loners of DC. Let's stick him on the time ship and have him do time travel adventures with Ray Palmer as well. That worked. Somehow that worked. Yep. I don't know how, but it worked. But let's go into some live-action Marvel shows. I'll admit, because I'm a DC guy, I don't have as much to say here.
Yep.
Come at me. I don't care. Look, I've made my allegiances. I haven't made them secret. Just deal with it. But let's talk about what I would argue is the GOAT as far as Marvel shows. We've talked about it on here before, Daredevil. Netflix's Daredevil. There is not a lot I would change or say could be better about this show. Just flat out, they did it perfectly as far as I'm concerned. And I hope they carry that into this new 18-episode show that they're going to do here.
I do too. I like his character a lot.
But I want to use that to kind of segue into another show that I think is severely underrated, Jessica Jones. I feel like this show's biggest problem was that it almost immediately followed up the first season of Daredevil. And I think a lot of people are expecting Daredevil again because it does look and, is made by the same people. It's the same universe. It's not Daredevil, though. Sure, Jessica Jones has powers, but she very rarely uses them. This was a detective noir story where she's trying to solve a mystery and defeat her demons and everything. It's that type of show. It's not a superhero in a colorful costume defeating the crime lord. Yeah. It's a detective
Working a
trying
case.
working a case.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people didn't expect that going into it, so it wasn't as. I put this like right up there with Daredevil personally.
Yep. It's just a different show. It's not the action-packed fighting. It's detective work.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Is Daredevil had not only fight scenes, some of the best choreographed fight scenes, and then you follow it up with Jessica Jones, where I think she throws like 5 punches.
Yeah.
Throughout the thing, she's not a very. It's just not a big fighting thing. I just was always disappointed that not more people talked about this show.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to also talk about another very underrated show, I think, for Marvel, Agent Carter.
Mm-hmm.
It still ticks me off today that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. got 8 seasons and this show only got 2.
And I will say I've seen more Agent Carter than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episodes.
And I know some people are going to try to defend Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and be like, it got better. It earned the seasons later on. Agent Carter was never bad. Sure, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. got better and got 8 seasons. Agent Carter was never bad and it only got 2.
Mm-hmm.
But again, same thing with when I was talking about with Jessica Jones. This show followed up Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I think people were kind of expecting Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but in the 40s, where it was like a team of spies taking on superpowered people. But even Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. barely did that, if I'm going to be honest. This was more of a different genre. It was an espionage movie. It was like a female James Bond kind of thing, set in the 40s. She was basically James Bond 20 years before James Bond.
Yep.
Kind of in this timeline. And the person who plays Agent Carter, she's great. There's a reason why she keeps popping up throughout the MCU and these cameos and whatnot. I'm always excited to see her. Let's move back into DC Comics. Let's talk about animation. I think animation is one of the best art forms for comic books to be portrayed on. I think a lot of the best portrayals of their storylines are in this medium. Not to say live action isn't cool. It's cool to see these characters be portrayed by real people that you can like meet and talk to and everything. But animation it's kind of that borderline. When you look at comic books, it's drawings on a 2D, paper. Here it's 2D and it's drawing, but it's, a little bit more emotion.
Yeah.
A little bit more voice.
I feel you can do a lot more storytelling aspect than in a live action, where you can have these characters doing all kinds of things that it just wouldn't work if you tried doing that in live action.
It's a lot easier to stage a building collapsing during a battle during animation with animation than in live action.
Yep.
There's a lot more paperwork in live action. But I also noticed something when I was kind of going through all these shows trying to pick out my favorite ones. They say that like the 40s and 50s was kind of the golden age of comics. I would argue the 2000s, 2010s is kind of the golden age for live action movies. The 90s was really a golden age for animation for both sides, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Case in point, let's look at some of the DC Comics ones here. Batman the Animated Series kicks things off. Arguably one of the best Batman properties, one of the best animated shows, one of the best shows of all time. They follow it up with Superman the Animated Series. Same people, now taking on the Man of Steel.
Yep.
Batman Beyond, a great follow-up to Batman the Animated Series. So much so that people, including myself, are begging for a live-action movie. James Gunn, please get on that. Justice League, the animated series, a great portrayal of the Justice League team and all the struggles they have to go through. Static Shock, very underrated show.
Yep, I remember Static Shock.
I was going to say, that was like right in our wheelhouse probably when we were kids is when that was coming on. And then Justice League Unlimited, I think a great thing that tied it all together at the end there. This run lasted from 1992 to 2006. 14 years of great stories, great shows, great characters, portrayed very well, in my opinion.
Yep. I would say of those, my favorite, I really like the Batman the Animated Series. And like the one, I don't know if necessarily it was my second favorite, but Static Shock, just I have the theme song and the nostalgia from just reading that when we were talking about this earlier just brought back a lot. And it was like, I enjoyed that a lot when I was a kid.
Static Shock is a great show. If you haven't had a chance to see Static Shock, check that one out.
Yep.
That one, I think even though it was kind of a part of this universe, it really kind of flew under the radar because there was so many other big things
Yep.
going on. It was like,
Yep.
if you're a kid, what would you rather watch? The Justice League show where it's got Flash, Batman, and Hawk Girl all working together, or just
Yeah.
one Static Shock or something
Yeah,
like
and like I definitely remember talking to my friends about the Batmans, but a guilty pleasure almost was watching Static Shock, just because I know not a lot of people saw it, but I loved it.
Yeah, great show. And then animation for Marvel. So many Spider-Man shows.
Yes.
Is there any that you ever latched on to? I don't know if there's any I ever saw all the way through.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any that I saw all the way through either. I know there was times when I just knew it was Spider-Man, whether or not which Spider-Man it was. I would just tune in and watch it. But I would say there was nothing that like gripped me to like I need to see every episode of this. There was nothing.
It didn't help that like at one time there was like 3 Spider-Man shows at like once.
Yeah.
Like I think Spectacular Spider-Man, Ultimate Spider-Man, and like one where he's like training young heroes for like Shield were like all at the same time.
Yeah.
It was I don't even think they were like connected. It was like all different voice actors and like networks.
It was just it's a Spider-Man show.
But that's how popular he was. You could get away with having 3 of his shows at the same time.
Yep.
And enough people were going to watch each of them where even if they weren't like watching the other or whatever, it was still popular enough to keep it going. But I guess if I had to narrow down a couple, the 90s one, again, like I said before, the 90s was kind of a peak time for animation. That one's pretty good. And then I think Spectacular Spider-Man was pretty good as well. I judge how good a Spider-Man property is by how good they do the Venom and Black Suit Spider-Man storylines. And I think Spectacular Spider-Man did it pretty good. And I think the 90s Spider-Man did it pretty good. And Spider-Man 3 didn't do it very good. So if you want to see one of the most popular storylines done right, Spectacular Spider-Man is the way I think you could go with that.
Okay.
Because I think that is such a huge moment for his character. That's such a huge deal for him. So, also, we cannot talk about Marvel animation without also talking about X-Men, the TV series from the 90s. I think I like the X-Men movies overall, but they're so inconsistent because some of them are really, really great, and then all the others are like really, really bad. There's like no middle ground. So there's such an inconsistency. If you want to see these characters done well consistently, the X-Men TV show from the 90s is a great example. But that is everything with DC and Marvel. Let's talk about a few honorable mentions. There's one I know you want to talk about. You've been itching to talk about it, and I made sure to put it at the very end here to make you wait because I use this show to psychologically torture him.
It's true. It's true.
But don't feel bad. He does it to me 6 days out of the week, so this is my one time. Let's talk about The Boys. Amazon Prime show. It's basically like parodying a lot of heroes that we talk about from both sides. Like the Seven, the big superhero team, is kind of an homage to the Justice League, but there's still a few characters here and there where it's like, that's clearly a Marvel guy.
That's clearly a Marvel guy. That's clear. Like Homelander, who is the leader of the Seven, you could he's Superman. That's who he is. He was made in a lab, invincible, like can't die, can fly, super fast.
Big Americana kind of
big
thing
Americana guy. Yeah. And I just absolutely love this show. This show, it is a hard R rating. It is not necessarily good for children to watch. It's very adult, but it's as in if superheroes were real and one company owned them. Like, okay, what if there really was a guy like the Flash or A-Train that can run incredibly fast?
It was sponsored by an energy drink or a
and
footwear
he's sponsored
company.
by Nike. You know, these are the Nike shoes. You can get $400 a pair. They make appearances. They do all this. They save the world, but they also answer to a company, and it kind of gets into, well, who's really in charge, the company or this guy? And it's just awesome.
It really takes a look, I think, especially the first few seasons, at capitalism in general, because there's even that moment where he's talking to like Homelander's like talking to the CEO of like the company that owns him and everything. And here you've got a guy who's got laser vision, invincible, nothing can stop him. He's fearless, and he's stepping up to the CEO, and he's like trying to intimidate him. But the CEO has so much like power and money from a corporation standpoint. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't blink.
Yep.
He even calls him, he's like, your failed product.
Yep.
And that's all Homelander is to him. To the entire world, he's this hero. He's this shining symbol. To this guy, he might as well be pills in a bottle that he can sell.
Yep.
That's how little he is to him.
And they work on that dynamic throughout the whole show, and it's fantastic.
One other honorable mention I would like to throw out there, and I didn't realize this till this morning when we were going to do this, as I was trying to find some other ones that weren't DC or Marvel. I want to talk about Danny Phantom. This is another kid's show.
Gotta catch 'em all. Danny Phantom, gotta catch 'em all.
I don't think that's Pokemon.
But what do they say?
They say, wait, maybe they do say that.
I'm pretty
sure
they
rip off Pokemon?
It's like, gotta catch 'em all. He's Danny Phantom, he's Danny Phantom.
But did Danny Phantom rip off Pokemon?
Maybe.
Now that I think about it, he kind of looks like Ash too.
He does.
Oh my God, Danny Phantom ripped off Pokemon. They've even got a Misty and a Brock.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You just ruined Danny Phantom.
Sorry.
I'm trying to recommend this show and you just shattered my world.
Yeah, that's what I
right
do.
now. So much for me psychologically torturing you. See, he does it to me all the time. I don't even know what to say about this show now. This just broke me. So anyways, yes, Danny Phantom is a great show. It's about a teenage superhero who has to fight ghosts that are escaping. His parents obviously try to capture ghosts, so there's a huge conflict there. It's just a really fun show, and it's got some great action. A hero's only as good as its villains, and there's not a lot of like, there are a few like threatening, like menacing villains, obviously Vlad, but a lot of them are kind of more humorous. So it's easy for a kid to watch, but it's got some heart into it too.
Yep.
That even I as an adult can kind of rewatch it.
I like the black suit, like that all, it looks cool. It looks nice.
It's a good look. It's
a
good look for him.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Let's take a quick moment here and talk about the Marshall 6 Theater here in Marshall, Minnesota. As we move into February, more and more blockbusters will be showing up on the marquee, so make sure you check out their website for showtimes, and make sure you get there early so that way you get some good concessions. Also, be on the lookout for more Phantom events to show up here at the Marshall 6 Theater. Very exclusive. Very different every time. So be sure to check out their website for showtimes and more.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
But let's move on to the weekly preview, talk a little bit about what shows to check out here in the near future. Friday, February 10th, we're getting closer and closer to Valentine's Day, so going to be a lot of lovey-dovey stuff here today. So,
a lot of solid middle ground movies.
Yeah, and don't expect a lot of action. Wait next week. Next week will be our time to shine again. But first things first, let's talk about Magic Mike's Last Dance. This one's coming straight to theaters. Channing Tatum movie, co-starring Salma Hayek. This is the third movie in the Magic Mike trilogy. Now, I think it's easy to just kind of look at this movie and go, oh, it's the Channing Tatum stripper movie, and not really take it too seriously. These movies do have a little bit of heart, though, to them.
A little bit of heart. Yeah, I'll give you that.
They're written and directed by Steven Soderbergh. He's not like... He's a pretty serious director and guy and everything. So I
think he's got some very unique projects coming up in the future, and this was to help say... We'll get some money, secure some funding.
Help Channing Tatum keep his career alive because it was kind of dead there for a little bit, but now it's having a little bit of a revival right now, thankfully. But yeah, like I said, I think there is something serious to be taken about these movies. After watching the trailer, however, it kind of just looks like Channing Tatum wanted to do another step up.
Last one,
No, do a step up movie.
Yeah.
but they didn't want to do a Step Up movie, so he's like, well, I'll do Magic Mike again. And they're like, okay, but it's just him doing Step Up
Yep, it's
again.
gonna be dancing and they across the water, and it
Yeah.
reminds me of like the Blue Man Group or something.
What Blue Man Group show did you go to?
Whoa!
Because the one I went to didn't remind me of that. I think you got.
I got the wrong tickets.
I think you got scammed, my friend.
Yeah.
Because from what I remember, my Blue Man Group show, they were shirtless or had shirts
Whoa.
on the whole time. Maybe I went to the wrong Blue Man
I think
Group.
you went
too.
to the wrong
Yeah.
one.
Did either of us go to Blue Man Group? I don't know.
No, I went to the one from Arrested Development.
I think Paul Giamatti also cameoed in that one as well.
Yeah.
Also coming out this weekend, Sharper. This is coming to Apple TV Plus. I like to call this Con Artist the movie.
Yep.
That's kind of what it is. It stars Julianne Moore, John Lithgow, Sebastian Stan, Justice Smith, and Brianna Middleton, just to name a few. It's one of those movies where no one is 100% the good guy, I don't think, here. But at the same time, there are so many implications of double crossing and trying to scam someone out.
Yep.
It's
an interesting concept, I think.
Yeah, I just have a worry that at the end here, it's going to be one of those, like, how many plot twists can we cram into these last 5 minutes? Where it's like, oh, yeah, I've been conning you. Well, guess what? I've been conning you. And then someone else is going to be like, I'm conning you. And then the other person's going to be like, you couldn't have conned me because I don't exist. And then they're like,
actually, I don't have any money.
Yeah. Like, it does look like everyone has an angle here. And that, to me, it's hard to pull that off in the end.
Yep. It just looks so dramatic.
Yeah.
And sharp with the lighting.
Now, I will say, John Lithgow in this trailer, he possibly gives the best/worst advice I've ever heard in a movie. Because at one point, Sebastian Stan's trying to, like, con him out of money, but he's, like, Julianne Moore's kid, and she, like, calls him out on it. And he's like, wait, so you were pulling this con just to get $1,000 out of me? And then he, like, seems annoyed at how little he tried to get con. He's like, and this is a quote from the trailer from him saying, if you're going to steal a lot.
Yeah.
It was kind of like he was, like, insulted. He's like, I got billions of dollars, son. If you're going to put in the effort to try and steal from me, go higher than $1,000, kid.
Yeah.
What is this, rookie? This is basically his way of saying go big or go home.
You could steal $250,000 and he might not even notice.
Yeah. But you like, come on. If I'm worth your time, you steal from me, son.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is a weird angle to have, but okay. Also coming out this weekend, Somebody I Used to Know. This one's coming to Amazon Prime. Written by Hollywood couple Allison Brie and Dave Franco. The movie stars Allison and is directed by Dave. Basically, Allison's character, she returns home for a little home visit when she runs into her old ex, who that weekend is getting married. This makes things a little bit more complicated as she starts to have feelings for him again. And the title, I think, kind of has a cool double meaning to it. That's kind of clever. So the Somebody I Used to Know refers to, I think, maybe I'm making this more complicated than it need to be. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it refers to somebody else she used to know, as in some other person, a.k.a. I keep hitting my mic today. I don't know why. As in somebody else that she used to know, the ex in this case. But the girl that he's getting married to, they even say in the trailer, like, reminds her
Of herself.
when she was younger.
Yep.
So she's also saying, like, she's somebody I used to know because that person used to be me.
Yep. Although the end of this trailer made my head kind of turn a little bit, because I think there's more than just those two making a connection in this film.
That was an interesting plot twist for me
That was
as well.
a very interesting thing.
I actually kind of forgot about that till you brought that up.
Because they make it very apparent that, oh, you're cool with me here? Yeah, it's cool. Oh, whoa. Now we're in the same room together all by ourselves. Whoa, what's going on here? So, depending on how that old twist thing goes, I don't know. Because, yeah.
Also, this movie has a small community reunion because this also stars Danny Pudi, who was Abed in Community.
Yep.
Obviously, Alison Brie was in it as well. I like to think that they started coming up with the idea of doing a Community movie on this set with them too, and then, like, in between takes, they were like texting the others, but not Chevy Chase. Hey, you guys want to do Community? And they're like, yeah, sure. 6 seasons in a movie.
Yep.
Finally coming out this weekend, Your Place or Mine. This is a Netflix romantic comedy starring Ashton Kutcher and Reese Witherspoon. But it's not the traditional romantic comedy you're used to. That's right. We got a little something different for you here today.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Listen to this one. So they are best friends who live on separate coasts. One lives in New York, one lives in L.A. One of them suggests to the other, hey, you're a workaholic. You need to take a little break here. I'm going to L.A. And instead of doing the traditional thing of like, hey, let me take you out. Let's have some fun while I'm in town. Let's hang out in person while I'm in town. No, let's switch houses. While I'm in L.A., I'm going to, for this week, that he's got to do some business thing. Why don't you fly out to New York? You stay in my place. You just kind of take a break. And trust me, I'll take care of your son, by the way. She's a single mom with a kid, by the way. Yeah, I'll take care of your kid. You have a vacation at your house. I'll take care of your house because that makes sense.
Yeah, goofy. But now they don't have to play for a spot to play or a spot to sleep. When you go on vacation, no hotels, no Airbnbs.
You don't think she doesn't have a guest bedroom?
Yeah, she just wants to get away from the kids. I get that.
I don't know. As soon as I saw that, it reminded me of the plot point and follow me on this one, The Next Karate Kid, where Mr. Miyagi had to go visit out on the East Coast, and he's visiting this old friend, and her granddaughter is like rebellious teenager, and she's like, oh, I just don't know what I'm going to do with her. And Miyagi's like, I've got an idea. Why don't you go over to fly out to LA, because you could totally just do that on a dime, and take care of my house and my plants while I'm gonna stay here, and I'm gonna whip her into shape, by the way, because that makes sense. Again, what is with people just leaving their houses with their kids?
Don't know.
Now
I might have to try that.
In fairness, it is Mr. Miyagi, so he can be trusted.
Yep.
If it's anyone other than Miyagi, or Mr. Rogers. Miyagi or Mr. Rogers. Those are the only two where if he came up to me and was like, hey, let's switch houses. I'm going to take care of your kid for a week. I'd be like, you got it.
Done.
You're good. It's all good. All checked out. We don't need to do anything else. Anyways, this is a little weird. But also, that's kind of the trade-off. When you do so many romantic comedies, you need to do something different.
Yep. You got to keep reinventing the same wheel.
So really, this movie was kind of doomed either way, as far as I'm concerned. It was either A, they just do the traditional thing and we complain about that, or B, they do something unconventional and now we're complaining about that.
I think without Ashton Kutcher and Reese Witherspoon, this is a made-for-TV movie.
Oh, for sure.
If you get those two actors, boom, now you're a real legit in-theaters movie.
Yep. Hey, we talk a lot about movies on this channel, but sometimes the ones we talk about aren't the most accessible. That's where the Marshall-Lyon County Library comes in handy. They have a great collection of physical media, as well as a couple of online services with many, many options for movies, TV shows, and documentaries. It's easy. Just get your own library card at the Marshall-Lyon County Library and gain access to their large variety of movies, TV shows, and of course, books. Also, be sure to check back every month as we here at Popcorn Bucket List make specific movie recommendations based on a monthly theme. This month, we're focusing on actors with a personal connection to Minnesota. So head on over to the Marshall-Lyon County Library for some of our favorites and check out the channel to get even more movie recommendations. And now, on with the show! But that is everything coming out here that you can check out in the near future. Let's talk about some things that you can check out right now. It's time for number one recommends. Ryan, I'm going to let you go first because yours is one I've been wanting to see for a while, and I want people to hear about it.
So I'm going to, I don't know if you would classify this as a documentary or a mockumentary, comedy special.
I'd go mock.
I'd go mockumentary. It is called Kunk on Earth. It is portrayed, and I can't remember the actress's name. She plays a interviewer that is on search to find the world's mysterious answers and questions and answer them and interview people. And it varies much like Borat mixed with like an actual like History Channel show where they talk to real historian people, and it is hilarious. She is so funny. The questions they ask is ridiculous. It's more, I would definitely say it's more of a lighthearted comedy special with real people talking about history and solving real world problems. And it's really funny. It's really funny. It's from the BBC, so they got the accent too.
The title doesn't really do it justice.
No.
Maybe that's a British thing.
Yeah,
that
I don't know.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know.
You wouldn't know it by the title, but
No.
Seeing a few clips of it from both you and I think another friend of mine also sent me some. Oh my God.
Yeah.
The humor just comes out of left field. Like
Yeah.
it's almost like if you're boxing and you're like you're so focused here, and then they grow a third arm that like swings around and right crosses you.
Yeah.
Like
Kind of
you
like
don't see it coming.
I always kind of go back to the clip I've seen with, I haven't watched it in the episode or in the episode.
You haven't gotten
yet.
to that episode yet.
Yep. Where they talk about Abraham Lincoln he goes to a play. And it's really annoying because, he always has that big top hat.
Yeah.
And when somebody's sitting in front of you with a big top hat, you get really mad. And they just kind of leave it at that.
Well,
and it's like, we know what you're talking about.
And then later on, she even asks the question. She's like, "How did getting shot in the head impact Abraham Lincoln's presidency?" And the guy who's like genuinely reacting to this stupid question is like, "Well, it stopped it.
It stopped it. Oh, okay.
My number one recommend. I wasn't gonna do this one because I thought for sure you were gonna, and then you didn't. So I'm gonna steal it from you. So now you can't use it now.
Okay.
I'm stealing it from you. I'm just kidding. You could do it later if you want.
All right.
All Quiet on the Western Front. We've been catching up on some of our Oscar stuff, getting ready for our Oscars challenge again here in a couple weeks. Trying to catch up on the Best Picture nominees. This one nominated for Best Picture and Best Foreign Film. Wow. This movie is so... It's attention grabbing. It really puts you... World War I in this time period, in this location, I mean, it was hell on earth.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other way to describe it. And this really did a good job of showing that, both from the soldiers' reactions to the actual look of the landscape and the area. I'm a huge stickler for runtime. I've said before, if your movie's longer than 2 hours, you've got to earn it.
Mm-hmm.
This movie's a little over 2.5. I didn't feel it.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Like 2.5 hours went by when we watched it, and I was like, it's over?
Yeah.
I want to watch some more. Like,
You want to see.
very rarely say that.
Yep.
So if you're into the war films, if you're into historical stuff,
Yeah.
dramas.
And I will say it's not much like compared to other films. There's not a lot of unnecessary dialogue, or it's more just It's more just showing depictions of what the war was like after another one, and it's not like as much talking or all of that.
Well, that's going to do it for us here on this episode of Popcorn Bucket List. Be sure to check out movies new and old at both the Marshall Six Theater and the Marshall Lyon County Library here in Marshall, Minnesota. And if you have any of your own movie recommendations, be sure to let us know in the comments down below of this YouTube video. For myself and Ryan Meyerberg, we'd like to thank you so much for watching, and we will see you at the movies. Do you have to make the sound effects for that too?
Oh, I didn't even realize.
You didn't even realize?